oil all through here, and there was nobody out here cleaning it up. And it could have been a lot worse, no doubt, even, you know, had we had more oil or whatever. But, you know, with what we had that came ashore, I just think that there should have been much better coordinated efforts to take care of that stuff, to prevent it from coming ashore. There was ample time.
As the oil moved in, this island got slammed at least 5 times with oil. And every time an oil layer came, here came some new vegetation, some wash, you know, some rack from storms and stuff, and covered it up. So as you keep going down, as you can see, you still got oil layers lower and lower and lower. But if we let them dig it all the way and keep pulling this stuff out, we ain't gonna have no more island left. It's all gonna wash away.
On a wildlife management area, which, you know, affords protection. It's owned by the state of Louisiana, by the Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, owned and managed. And then adjacent, we have a federal refuge managed by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. About 200,000 acres of protection. So we have a physical presence here in terms of personnel, which affords a lot of the wildlife that utilize this area, you know, a great deal more protection they would get, say, on private land or something, you know, of that nature, where, you know, areas that are not manned or protected or managed. Where does that keep coming from, Clint? Jeez.
It's layers. We have layers.
This is where they picked a lot of stuff
Yeah,
up.
They dug all this up.
You get kind of complacent, you know, you forget about it, out of sight, out of mind kind of thing. And when if I don't come out for a month and kind of, you put it on the back burner, or you think, well, it's being cleaned up and it's a lot better, and then you come out here and see it's not a whole lot different. You get another, 20 degrees up into the mid-90s or close to 100 out here during the middle of the summer, and you're going to have oil oozing probably out of this substrate. But lots of secretive marsh birds like rails and other birds utilize this habitat. If you get it re-exposed into the system, then that can trail down to a beach where you have a lot of shorebirds or terns or other water birds, waders and such. Anything's worth doing, whether or not they're making a big impact, it's hard to tell. It's going to be difficult to assess. But I mean, Clint and them know, and they stay out here. We have crews that stay out here and monitor it. And, I mean, they're doing anything they do is something positive for the most part. I mean, if we're involved in it to make sure they're not doing more damage than good.
What the guys back there were doing were they dig test holes, and they're looking for tar patties. And when they find the tar patty, they scrape off the top layers of clean sand, and then they scoop out the contaminated sands. And the contaminated sand, obviously, they bag it up, and then they put the clean sands back on top to try and fill the hole back up. Because we have an erosion problem, and we want to keep as much of our sand as we can here. That's where we have Wilson's plover nesting, and we want to keep the activity to a minimum around those areas because they don't like disturbance. They're trying to raise their nests there, and we like to keep people away from it as much as possible.
The oil itself has come on the island, and also just the boom that was placed on there has probably done some damage to the island too, you think? Yeah. A lot of this island that used to be solid mangrove with good vegetation top to bottom. Now you've got a lot of this bottom that's opened up areas, so a lot of these birds are down nesting there on the ground. So it's not going to take much of an elevation of water, just a small storm, to take out those ground nesting birds.
But and Marty mentioned the boom. I mean, boom was an issue because it's such a high energy environment, as you can tell just from being out here with this wave action. They couldn't anchor boom very well, and a lot of that boom got washed off onto the island and broke the mangroves. And then, this whole end of this north end of this island is much different last year. A lot of healthy mangroves now, and like Marty mentioned, many of these birds are now nesting essentially on the ground, and that's not good for any kind of, even a tropical system with a high tide of say 2 or 3 feet is going to jeopardize many of these nests.
Flooded the marshes and on the edges, and it killed a lot of pulse larvae that came in March and April. And when the season did open, everything was closed. You couldn't make $1 anyway. So, and it's still killing. It's got to kill them. They had so much in there because they go into the marshes, and that's where they go to stay away from predators, and they grow. Then after they grow, they come back out into the Gulf. We're not seeing that here in Barataria Bay this year. What's going to happen in the years to come? The oil did the damage, and it's still doing damage. And we just have to wait. And nobody really knows what's going to happen, but I know it.
The general public is they're tired of it. They don't want to hear about it anymore. There was not a big cry when this was all shown 2 weeks ago for the anniversary. There wasn't a big public outcry like, wow, look, there is still all this going on. Well, that's human nature. You get tired of the negative stuff, I guess, but it's real, and it still needs to be, not like it was last year by any means, but there are cases, like here today, that places like this that still need to be addressed.